Hi everyone, and welcome to the Chat and Vibe series for the upcoming Vitality Festival, which starts on the 31st of October. We have 9 incredible days. It's a free virtual experience in the health and wellbeing sector, and it's targeted to frontline workers, but it's available to anybody that needs a little bit of inspiration, support, motivation. We've got fantastic people, and we're really, really excited today. We've got Aisling Quigley with us. How are you?
I'm well. I'm delighted to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. You're a mindfulness and meditation teacher. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to do what you do today?
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't always a case that I was in this field at all. I've actually come from a corporate career in a high pressure, fast paced media world. So I spent about 11 years in that field specifically and got to the point where, as I said, high pressure, fast paced, and being quite an A-type personality was go, 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 go. And it actually got to the point where I hit not one but two burnouts basically, and was at the point where suffering regularly from anxiety, having regular panic attacks, and that kind of thing. And it actually took a point where I remember it so clearly. It was, I believe it was a Tuesday morning, it's probably about 7 years ago now. And I remember it in that it was one of those kind of wet and windy days in Melbourne. And, if anyone who lives in Victoria, that feeling of not one, not two, but maybe three trams pass you by, filled to the brim with all these passengers just trying to get, on that treadmill of life to get into work, into the city. And I had bags under my eyes. I had been up till maybe 2 or 3 a.m. on a global conference call, which was pretty much the norm in those days. And I remember getting into work and that feeling, of the heart was beating, the tummy was in knots. I was seeing that flashing red light on my phone that would tell you that I had probably 50 plus missed calls or voicemails from angry clients and publishers, and a to-do list the length of my arm. And the thing I guess I remember the most about that day was this feeling against my cheek. And it was this kind of cold sensation. And what that was actually from was from the bathroom floor, because I had had a panic attack again, and it was not my first that week. And the thing I remember as well, which really, really stands out clearly to me, is the voice of one of my colleagues. And I can so clearly remember her. She just said, "Aisling, something needs to change here for you." And from that point on, I wish I could say, I found yoga and meditation and then that was it and life has changed forever. But it started me on this path of self-development and looking for something with not only that would, in terms of my own health and well-being, bring that towards a more positive trajectory, but also it started to unravel this path of wanting a little bit more purpose and a little bit more meaning in my life. So from there, I was introduced to yoga and meditation, and it became a personal practice, and got to the point where I started kind of living a bit of a double life. I was kind of, high-flying media and corporate, Aisling by day, yogi and meditation, Aisling by night, and just, kind of hanging out until 5 o'clock until I could just go and roll out my mat. But it was that really that started to change the trajectory of my life. And it got to a point, I guess, where it took for a colleague of mine, I was driving home in the car one day, to say, "I'm actually going to be handing in my notice tomorrow." And I remember I got a pang of jealousy and I was like, "Oh, that's not good." There's something in that. And it was just before the Christmas break. So I decided I'd take about 2 or 3 weeks that I had off to do a bit of soul searching and to do a lot of writing, a lot of reflecting on what it was that was actually important to me. And from there, what arrived was this space of connection. And for me, what I felt, the place where I felt I came most alive was when I was teaching, when I was facilitating, when I was helping people connect a little more to themselves, to each other, and I guess to the world more broadly. And so knowing that I didn't necessarily want to teach yoga full time, and a program came up with a mentor of mine who I had studied with in the past, which was around mindfulness, meditation, facilitation. So felt using that I could marry the two worlds of my corporate career, but also these tools that had been just so integral in my own life, and to hopefully help people start and continue on with their own journey. So in a long way, to answer your question, I guess that's what led me to this point. And I've been teaching yoga, meditation, mindfulness, both in the public and the corporate space now for about full time, about 3 years, but overall about the last 8 years.
Wow, what a fantastic journey. And it seems from your descriptions, you know, your ability to tune in and your level of awareness has really sort of sharpened, you know, the way that you were describing things. Is that one of the benefits that people can expect when they're doing yoga and meditation?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think the course of the way society has moved in the last number of decades, in particular, you know, the last, is that everything is very outward focused. It's, you know, we're being bombarded ongoing with information, we're distracted, and we're under pressure, we're always on. And so we're being very much pulled in all these other directions where there's very little time and space to kind of come from the inside out versus the outside in. You know, even from the moment where you wake up, you know, for so many of us, the first thing is you turn to the phone and there's all these messages of people demanding things of you or asking things of you, or you're, you know, reacting based on what you're seeing externally. So what I find so powerful about these practices is, you know, it's not a silver bullet. It's not like take this pill and your life will be changed forever. It's knowing that there is an inner knowing there, and there always has been and there always will be. But what we just need to do is to turn down the noise for a bit around all of those external distractions, and to actually listen to what's already there, because we already know, you know, we know when we're out of balance, we know when we're out of whack, we know what's right for us in any given moment, in any different direction, or in any given time. But we very rarely listen. We hear the voice that's, you know, the critic and the judgment and telling us all the things that we're doing wrong. But it's that inner voice, the one that probably doesn't speak so loudly, but speaks so very much more clearly. And I think it's these practices which really help us access that voice. And for me, that's that inner connection is transformative. It's what changes everything in relationship to ourselves, in relationships to the others, in relationships to the environment and the planet. And it helps us live what I love to call this purpose-driven life. It's where everything that we're reading, we're saying, we're eating, we're drinking is on purpose, versus that kind of autopilot reactive state where we're just going through the motions, trying to get to the next. And that space for me just brings so much more contentment, so much more ease, so much more space, which we need now more so than ever.
I think that's fantastic. So well put. And I think it's interesting because at the moment, you know, there was all that external stimulus, as you say, but at the moment, because of what's going on in the world, you know, a lot of that's been taken away. And I get the sense in the world that I operate in that some people that's very uncomfortable. You know, some of us choose to go inside and other people have been really forced to go inside. So what would you say to people at the moment who are feeling a little bit uncomfortable with that turning in, whether they're doing it consciously or it's just because they're stuck inside their four walls? What little tips might you say to someone like that at the moment?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I've been running throughout the course of COVID and lockdown, particularly in Melbourne where we're at. We've been pretty much in lockdown since March. A lot of the coursework that I've been doing is that ongoing process of self-inquiry. And what I've been hearing a lot of from my students is, they're just dumbfounded with all of the chitter chatter that they're hearing, because it's like they're meeting themselves for the first time. And as you said, that can feel so uncomfortable, because it's not all rainbows and unicorns in there at all. We are our biggest critic, our biggest judgment. I always say to students too, if we spoke to others the way we speak to ourselves, we would have very little friends left. um, but I guess to answer your question in terms of, tools to work with that, it's really this process of just leaning in gently. And I think that gently piece is really, really important, because, to lean out, we're not necessarily helping ourselves in any way. We're just ignoring or numbing out what's already there. And we're just pushing it down and suppressing it, which eventually, it's got to go somewhere. And usually it comes in a massive outburst in some way, shape, or form. And we're like, where did that come from? But it's to continue just to lean in, to be kind to yourself, to have that relationship with yourself like you would to a friend, to, just even the hand on the chest and be like, it's okay. It's okay. What we're going through is really, really difficult at this time, to recognize that firstly, and then to allow it, to say, no, you're not necessarily accepting it in that you condone it, or that you believe what's going on, or if it's COVID, or if it's any other sort of challenge in your life, it's not to say, oh yes, I deserve this or anything like that. It's just to say, can I actually just let it be, because it's here? And the resistance against it is only going to cause more tension, more dis-ease, not only in the mind but in the body. And then to start to maybe just investigate it a little bit. So, to get an understanding about why it is that I feel the way I do. Is it a case of, absolutely, we're going through one of the biggest global crises that we've ever faced into? Of course I feel like that. Of course we do. That's natural. I've maybe lost my job, or maybe I'm demanded upon, from homeschooling, from all of the other things that I'm being pulled in. Maybe I haven't had rest in weeks, and of course I'm exhausted, of course I'm tired. But then the last part of the piece is just to turn to yourself and you say, it's okay, I'm okay. Offer something towards yourself like you would to a friend. If someone was to say to you, look, I'm really struggling right now, like what would you say to them? And how do you maybe divert that and turn that in towards yourself? Because that's ultimately what you need the most. And if, this quote that I often quote to students and say, if your compassion does not include yourself, then it is incomplete. We're very easy to give. And a lot of, people, particularly at the moment, are being so incredibly generous with their time, with their services. But to try and maybe just hold on a little bit of that just for yourself, because we can't pour from an empty cup, and we need to put our own life jackets on first.
Yeah, love it. Great advice. And what you were talking about before with the listening, I find that really incredible, listening to other people, and most importantly, listening to yourself. And silent has the same letters as listening. And I think, when you sit and you do meditation and with yoga, it provides a bit of space for us to really sort of, as you were saying, lean into, to see what arises, see what we need for ourselves, which I think is really important. And at the upcoming Vitality Festival, you will be taking a yoga class. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about what people can expect by attending your class?
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, I'm super excited to be involved, so thank you for having me. I guess when I think about my approach to teaching and within yoga, I love to just say, it's open to everyone. You don't have to be there won't be any standing on your head for the hour or anything like that. What I'm very much about is that kind of embodied movement, and that to where we really, really slow things down. And we use that opportunity and that movement practice as a way to turn inwards. Often when, you know, in whether it's yoga, whether it's other sort of body practices, it's very easy to get distracted because you're kind of moving quickly from one thing to the next and trying to figure it all out. Whereas with the practices that I love to share, it's very much around that connection between the mind, the body, and the breath. So how do we move in a way that nourishes us, how that supports us, you know, to have that inner listening to say, oh, what do I need today? Do I need to kind of give it, you know, 100%? Do I need to energize myself, maybe give myself a little kick up the butt? Or do I really, really just need to slow it down? Maybe it's actually just the breathing that I really need today to support myself as best as I can. And in a way, using that practice to get a little bit more embodied, to get a little bit more present with what's here, and using that then to take in with you to the rest of your day. And I know with my session specifically, it's first thing in the morning of a Monday in Australia time. And so for those of us who are in Australia, a really incredible way to just set the stage for the week and your day, and hopefully do so with a little bit more ease and a little bit more space.
I think that's great, because you really learn, what you were saying is to respond to what you need. And, you know, there's a lot of people that need a lot of different things at the moment. And I think everyone needs to learn not just to push ahead with life the way it was, but rather to just sit and see, you know, what it is that you need, which, you know, from what I'm hearing, people are going to get that experience from coming to your class.
Yes, I hope so. I think I often say too that I heard this phrase from an officer a while back, and she said, we really need to stop shoulding all over ourselves. We're very quick to, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, they're doing this, they're doing that, you know. Whereas actually sometimes the difference between the should and what we really need is quite huge. And when we start to listen to what we really need versus what we think we should do, it can be a lot more nurturing rather than depleting, which is important always, but now more so than ever.
That is sensational advice. Thank you. Our Aisling's also part of Conscious Conversations, which we're going to be interviewing you guys in a couple of days. But I know you've got some virtual meditation classes that you're holding at the moment. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about those?
Yeah, great. In terms of that, what I've been doing throughout COVID and I'm hoping to do ongoing is running an introductory 4-week Learn to Meditate course, which is actually suitable for all levels. It's for those who want to dip their toe in, you know, maybe have never tried meditation before. Maybe you have tried it, but with little success, or maybe, you know, have kind of dipped your toe in, but weren't quite sure as to, am I doing it right? You know, am I doing it right? But also then those who are maybe experienced practitioners who just want to deepen your practice. And with this course, we don't only dive into, I guess, the what, the how, and the why of meditation and of practice, but really we dive then into things like topics like perception and creative responding versus reaction. We dive into stress and the brain. So what is actually the science behind what it is that we're doing? And then how do we also incorporate these practices into how it is that we show up in our relationships? So whether that's for ourselves or whether that's with other human beings, because often the cause of a lot of our stress is outward. So how we become a little bit more mindful in all aspects of our life, and then using those tools then to take us into how it is that we use these as practices lifelong. So it's a 4-week course. It's very interactive. There's a lot of engagement. It's not just me speaking to the screen. And it's very contextually relevant too. So it's really diving into different aspects of your own life experience and seeing, okay, how do we use these tools to help you ongoing? And so, yeah, it's been
Sounds fantastic. Aisling, thank you so much for joining us here today. if you want to find out more about what Aisling's doing, I'm going to put a link down the bottom and you can click on that and find out all about her upcoming courses. But in the meantime, we would love you to join her class at the Vitality Festival. We've got so many fantastic classes available to you, and after registering, you'll get access to all the recordings of the course of the 9 days. So we look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much for being with us today, and we wish you all the best for all the future for you.
Thank you. You too. Looking forward to it.
Bye.